All right, we are in section 1.5 where we're going to use problem solving plan. Problem solving plan is one of the foundations of being able to solve problems in mathematics. Generally, we have to do that when it's the use of word problems. Word problems can be tricky, challenging, but there are certain steps that we have to take in order to um, solve them correctly. And I have some little keynotes for you to look in and see if it's your to make sure that we are doing the right approach. So first thing is read and understand. Read the problem carefully, identify what you know and what you want to know. So essentially, you're going to kind of decode in that problem what we're going to solve and what do we know in order to solve it. There are ways that we can read and understand it. One of the ways that we can do this is writing out an equation. That's one way. So maybe that's just number one. Number two, which is my favorite, is draw a picture. Number three would be make a list. You know, identify what you have, what you don't have, and then what can you use from that list in order to solve it. Number two is make a plan, decide on an approach to solve the problem. So use one of those steps. There are probably more, and solve the problem. Once you do that, carry out your plan. Try something. If it doesn't work, do something else. And then the last one, which is probably the most important, is to make sure your solution's reasonable. If you have a question that deals with pricing on milk and your result ends up being like $300, that's not a reasonable solution. So you may have to go back and try another strategy or do a different equation. Okay? So we're going to take a look at some word problems, and we're going to try to use these steps in order to solve them accordingly. First example is red. It says Mr. Liu is planting trees around the perimeter of a rectangular park. The park measures 72 feet by 48 feet. The trees need to be spaced 12 feet apart. A tree is to be planted in each corner. How many trees are needed? Okay. And if you were in class, we talked about solving this two different ways. Both of them perfectly correct. And I'll show you both of them here. So first thing my instincts was to draw a picture. So it's telling me that it's a rectangular park. So I got myself a rectangular park here. And it measures out at 72 feet. And it also measures at 48 feet. It says that the trees are spaced 12 feet apart and are planted in each corner. So I'm going to put a tree in each corner. Here are my trees, aren't they lovely? And then I'm going to space them 12 feet apart. So that means on each perimeter, which is the distance around the park, there's going to be 12, it's going to be a tree every 12 feet. So there's going to be a tree here at 12 feet, 24, 36, 48, 60. And then that would be 72. And then there's going to be a tree here at 12, 24, 36. So if you look here, I got on the bottom here, I got in between the corners, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top. And then from the right, it was 3. So I'm going to put 3 on the left-hand side. So 1, 2, 3. Now all I can do is just count them. So I can say that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 trees. Okay? Perfectly good strategy. I got 20 trees. Another way you could solve it is this. I know that the perimeter formula is 2L plus 2W. Okay? So it's going to be 2 times the length, which is 72, plus 2 times the width, which is 48. And if I were to multiply that out, I got 72 times 2, which is 144, plus 2 times 48, which is 96. So 144 plus 96 gives me 240. Now that's my perimeter in feet. So I take that perimeter and I divide it by 12 because I know that each tree needs to be 12 feet apart. Divide that by 12 and you get 20 trees. Two different strategies. Both of them work just fine and both got me the same result. Okay? Let's take a look at this example. So it says in an aviary there are 3 times as many finches as mockingbirds. If there are 436 birds, how many mockingbirds are there? If the aviary workers were selling each finch for $5 and each mockingbird for $8, how much money could they make total? So this is one of those things where I would almost make a list. So the list is this. First off, we want to know how many mockingbirds there are. Mockingbird total. So from this list, I know that there is 436 birds combined. And there are 3 times as many finches versus mockingbirds. Okay? So from there, we can make an equation. The equation looks like this. I know that there's 3 times as many finches as there are mockingbirds. I don't know how many mockingbirds there are, so I can say, I'm going to say 3x plus x happens to equal 436. So, for instance, say if there was 1 mockingbird, there would be 3 finches. If there was 2 mockingbirds, there'd be 6 finches. So whatever the value of mockingbirds there are, there's going to be 3 times as many finches. So with this, I can solve for x. First thing I have to do is combine like terms. I can take 3x and add it to x, which gives me 4x, and it equals 436. Divide both sides by 4. So I get x equaling 109. And these are 109 mockingbirds. All right, so that's the first question that we need to answer. The second question they ask is, if they sell finches for $5 and mockingbirds for $8, how much will they make total? Well, first thing I have to figure out is how many finches there are. So, since I know there's 3 times as many finches, I can just take 109, multiply it by 3. So I know that there's going to be 327 finches and 109 mockingbirds. So they're telling us that finches were $5 each. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 327 and multiply it by 5. And that is going to give me a value of $1,635. Now, for the mockingbird, I'm going to take 109 and multiply it by, they said, $8. And 109 times it by 8 is $872. Question is how much you make total. So I'm going to take that 1635 and add it to my 872, and I get a grand total of $2,507. Okay, I answered both questions. I know there's going to be 109 mockingbirds, and I'm going to make $2,507 total from those 2 birds. Okay. This example is read, you are designing the layout for a newspaper about teen issues. The newspaper will be 22.5 inches wide. You plan to have 5 columns with 1/8 inch gaps between them and 3/8 inch margins on the left and right side. How wide will each column be? Like I told you in class, take a few minutes, see if you can figure it out. So what I would like you to do is maybe pause this tape and see if you could figure this out, and then I'll go through it and see how close we got to the answer. So if you paused it, you got to do some work on it. First thing I did and what I suggested in class was, let's draw a picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture of this newspaper. They're telling me that this dimension right here is 22.5 inches. All right. From this, I know that there's going to be a margin that is 3/8 of an inch on the left and right hand side. And I know there's going to be 5 columns in between that. So this is column 1. And I know that there's an 1/8 inch gap between that. This is column 2. Another 1/8 inch gap. 3, 1/8 inch gap. 4, 1/8 inch gap. And this is 5. All right, it's not quite to scale, but I apologize. But you got an idea of what it's supposed to look like. So the only thing that they don't tell us is the measurement from here to here. And every column is going to be the same width, whether it's column 1 to column 5. So the distance from here to here is going to be the same the distance from here to here, same from here to here, same to here to here, same to here to here. So I'm going to represent that as a measurement of x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up all of the values that are in between this width of this newspaper, and it's going to equal 22.5 inches. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to look at the variables. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x. So I got 5x to start with. It's going to be plus, how many 1/8 inch pieces do I have? I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So an eighth of an inch multiplied by 4 gives me 1/2. So it's going to be, I'm just going to say 0.5. And it's going to be plus 3/8 plus 3/8, which is going to be 0.75. And it's going to equal 22.5 or 22.5. Both of them mean the same thing. So I got myself, I drew an equation. I'm also going, I drew a picture. I'm also going to write an equation. So I'm using two strategies, I guess. First thing I'm going to do is combine like terms. I can combine 0.5 and I can combine 0.75. So I got 5x plus 1.25 is going to equal 22.5. Now we're going to solve for the variable. First thing I have to do is I'm going to subtract 1.25 to both sides. So I got 5x here, and it's going to equal 21.25. And the last thing I have to do is divide both sides by 5. And I get x to equal 4.25 inches or 4 1/4 inches. So each column is going to be 4 1/4. Okay. Some of the things that you're going to look at are formulas. You know, we have area formulas, we have perimeter formulas. These are some other general formulas that may help you not only in this section but in other sections that we're going to look at in the future. One of them is the temperature, being able to convert degrees to Celsius, vice versa, simple interest, and distance traveled. Profit also. I got one more problem here. Let's see, what does it say? It says a builder lays sod on the lawns of new houses. It says the installed cost for sod is 38 cents per square foot, or $0.38 per square foot. What is the cost of installing sod on a rectangular lawn that is 36 feet long and 8 feet wide? Okay, here is where my decoding. This tells me that it's $0.38 per square foot. Anytime it says square foot or squared anything, that's looking at the area of an object. And they're telling us that it's in a rectangular object. So I'm going to draw a picture. Draw a picture of this rectangular object, and they're telling me that the dimensions of this rectangular object are 32 feet long and 18 feet wide. So what I have to do is figure out the area of this rectangle. I know that area of a rectangle is length times width. So all I have to do is take the length, which is 32, and multiply it by 18. So 32 times 18 is 576 square feet. The question is how much will it cost? So I know that it's 576 square feet. I know that each square foot is $0.38. So I'm going to take this value and multiply it by 0.38. So 576 multiplied by 0.38 gives me a grand total of $218.88. Okay? And that is being able to use problem solving plans. Hope this helps. Until next time.